The impeachment process, as outlined in the passage, does not result in immediate removal from office. Impeachment is, in essence, a formal charge against a sitting president, but it does not automatically lead to removal from office. The House of Representatives can vote to impeach the president, but the actual removal process requires a Senate trial and a two-thirds majority vote for conviction. This distinction between impeachment and removal is crucial, yet it is often misunderstood in public discourse, where many conflate the two terms. The House vote only signifies the beginning of the impeachment process, not an immediate end to the president's tenure in office. The passage makes it clear that while the House of Representatives has impeached Trump, his removal from office hinges on what happens in the Senate. The second vote on additional impeachment charges scheduled to take place will follow the same constitutional process as the first vote. The Senate's responsibility is to hold a trial, where the president can defend himself. The removal of the president would require a two-thirds majority of senators voting in favor of conviction, which has been a major obstacle in Trump's impeachments, given that Republican support has consistently prevented his removal. Political loyalty has been a key factor in the delay of impeachment proceedings, as Republican lawmakers have often prioritized loyalty to their party over the constitutional principles of accountability. Further complicating this process is the 25th Amendment, which provides an alternative path for removal by declaring a president incapacitated. However, this constitutional tool requires a majority of the cabinet members and the vice president to agree that the president is unfit to perform the duties of office. This process has never been used successfully, primarily because presidents tend to appoint loyalists to their cabinets, making it difficult to amass the necessary votes for this process to succeed. Thus, the 25th Amendment offers a theoretical means for removal, but political realities have prevented its use. In the case of impeachment, the House resolutions play a pivotal role in laying the groundwork for future accountability. Multiple impeachment resolutions have been filed against President Trump, each charging him with various abuses of power, including charges of corruption, tyranny, and misuse of presidential authority. These resolutions are not speculative drafts or political rhetoric, but official congressional documents that provide a formal record of the charges against the president. The language used in these resolutions, including the term tyranny, signifies the serious nature of the accusations. These documents are critical not only for impeachment, but for building a historical record that will be used to hold future presidents accountable for their actions. However, evidence alone is insufficient to remove a sitting president. As the passage makes clear, removal requires political will, something that has been consistently blocked by partisan loyalty. Even though strong evidence against Trump exists, political realities in Congress have allowed him to remain in office. Lawmakers, particularly those in the Republican Party, have prioritized their political survival and allegiance to Trump over the constitutional responsibility to act on this evidence. The passage emphasizes that partisan loyalty has been the primary reason for the delay in addressing the impeachment process. This political gridlock remains the central obstacle to accountability despite the legal and constitutional mechanisms in place. The passage also stresses that impeachment is only the first step in a long and complicated process. After the House votes to impeach, the Senate must hold a trial, and a two-thirds majority is required to convict and remove the president. Even if the House were to pass articles of impeachment, Republicans in the Senate have consistently voted against conviction, making it virtually impossible to remove the president. This shows how partisan loyalty has effectively blocked the constitutional process and prevented Trump's removal from office, even though evidence of misconduct is substantial. One of the key themes in the passage is the difference between documentation and enforcement. While impeachment resolutions and articles of impeachment provide documentary evidence of misconduct, they do not guarantee that the president will be removed from office. The constitutional tools for impeachment and removal exist, but they are often blocked by political considerations. The machinery for accountability is in place, but it does not operate by itself. Political actors in Congress must act on that machinery, but often, political survival takes precedence over constitutional checks. The passage further explores 4 conditions that can lead to a president's removal, as historical patterns show. The first condition is a collapse in public support within the president's own party. As the passage notes, Republican lawmakers fear losing the support of Trump's base more than they fear facing general election voters. If Trump's base begins to shift away from him, Republican lawmakers may find it politically advantageous to abandon him, as happened with Richard Nixon. Nixon's downfall did not result from evidence alone, but from the collapse of his support base. The second condition for removal is a precipitating event, something undeniable and immediate that shifts the political will. Examples of such events could be a criminal act caught on tape, a national security disaster, or a brazen abuse of power. These events, while rare, have the potential to dramatically shift political dynamics and force lawmakers to act quickly. Nixon's Watergate tapes served as such a moment when denial became impossible and political support for him rapidly collapsed. The third condition is coordination, where a critical mass of lawmakers moves together to support impeachment or removal. Individual acts of courage are often isolated and punished, but when senior political figures signal that it is safe to defect, the momentum for removal can cascade. This process often relies on leadership and timing, and once a critical mass forms, political pressure can build rapidly. The fourth condition is electoral change, particularly if Democrats were to retake the House of Representatives in the next election. If this happens, impeachment could become procedurally unavoidable, and Republican senators would have to go on record regarding their position on impeachment. The electoral environment could increase pressure on institutions that have delayed action, potentially leading to a political reckoning. The passage also criticizes the role of the media in shaping public perception. Sensational headlines often distort the impeachment process for emotional effect, which leads to misunderstanding and false hope. The media frequently overhypes the situation, and this distortion has left many people either overly hopeful or prematurely discouraged. Clarity, not drama, is essential to understanding what is actually happening in Congress. Despite the obstacles to Trump's removal, the passage stresses that Trump's survival through impeachment has significant consequences for future presidencies. If a president can survive impeachment, it sends a message that constitutional checks can be negotiated if political protection is strong enough. This trend could lead future presidents to believe that they can escalate their power and bypass constitutional norms if they have sufficient political support. The documentation of misconduct is crucial, even if immediate action is not taken. These official resolutions create a record that future Congresses, courts, and historians must address. Cumulative accountability through legal exposure and public pressure can continue even if removal is not achieved immediately. The passage emphasizes that legal action does not rely solely on impeachment, and that the courts can play a role in holding the president accountable through criminal cases, civil judgments, or injunctions, which do not require impeachment to proceed. The passage concludes by addressing the psychological component of political delay. Lawmakers delay action not only out of fear, but also out of hope that the situation will resolve itself, whether through the courts or elections. However, the passage warns that hope is not a strategy, and relying on it postpones necessary action. This delay can allow entrenched power to continue, and the systemic erosion that happens when accountability is postponed can weaken democratic institutions. In conclusion, the impeachment process is not a quick fix, but a slow, complex process that requires sustained public pressure and political will to succeed. The realities of partisan loyalty and political survival have delayed Trump's removal, but history shows that these obstacles can change. The critical factor for accountability lies in sustained clarity and public understanding, as these pressures will eventually force politicians to act in the face of mounting evidence and public demand. The passage makes it clear that while impeachment may not result in immediate removal, The process of documentation and accountability continues to shape the future of American democracy.